Hi everybody, I'm Julie Kerr, writer and director of the romantic comedy Geek Loves Punk, and today I'm going to be doing a book review. Okay, today I'm reviewing the book Should I Stay or Should I Go? Surviving a Relationship with a Narcissist by Ramani Durvasula, and she has a Ph.D., which is pretty cool. Okay, so the reason I'm recommending this book, the subject of narcissistic disorder is kind of a dark subject, or a gloomy subject. But I stumbled across Ramani's or Dr. Ramani's an interview of her on YouTube, and she was describing what someone with narcissistic disorder was. And I was just like, whoa, because she was describing some people I probably grew up with. She was describing perhaps some relatives of mine. I'm not a doctor. I'm not diagnosing anybody. But she was just naming, bullet pointing some behaviors of people with narcissistic disorder. And I was just like, holy crap. So I actually found this book actually very liberating. Like it helped me out so much. So that's why I totally recommend the book. It just helped me kind of recognize some boundaries I needed to set in my life with people in my life, and it kind of helped me. It just saved me a lot of like emotional pain, and so that's why I totally recommend the book. Oh, by the way, if you read the book or buy the book, I don't make any money. I'm just genuinely recommending this book because out of the kindness of my heart. Because yeah, okay. The other thing I want to say is I feel a calling in my life as far as social media presence towards the more optimistic or hopeful or positive. So I can't dedicate my entire channel to narcissistic disorder, but Dr. Ramani has a great YouTube channel. There's two other YouTube channels I totally recommend that talk about people with narcissistic disorder, and these are people who have PhDs, that kind of thing, really smart people. So I'm going to link below if you want more info on the subject. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about three things I really like about this book and why I recommend it. One, she does have a PhD, but like the book's written in a very accessible way. So if you're like a regular person, I'm a regular person, so I do have a college degree, but it's a bachelor's, so it's like the book's a good read. Like she writes it in a way that's very like easy to read. So that's my first reason I like it. The second one I really like about this book, the second thing, is like because it says should I stay or should I go, she actually gives you the option of, like, for me, I've probably, again, not diagnosing anybody, but I probably grew up around some narcissists, narcissistic disorder, and I probably have worked with some, and I've bumped into them in my life here and there. Okay. But she talks about if you're married to someone with narcissistic disorder, if you're dating someone with narcissistic disorder. The thing about the book that she offers is that what she says is, for some people, the female empowerment vibe, and I like this, but you're dating someone and they're not nice to you, and the vibe is kick him to the curb, right? So I appreciate that sentiment a lot. But what she acknowledges in this book is, like, for some people, it's just sort of, as far as their journeys go, it's not an option for them. And I'm just saying that as a random filmmaker on the internet, so I'm not giving advice, but except that you should read this book. But the reason I like that she basically talks about in the book, look, for what she says in the book, if for whatever reason you don't want to get a divorce, or you don't want to break up with someone, or etc., who has narcissistic disorder, in the book she gives coping mechanisms for people who are dating or married to someone with narcissistic disorder. I've had friends go through divorces, and it's like expensive, it's messy, it's hard. But anyway, so oh right, and so for me though, I don't feel like I've really dated anyone with narcissistic disorder, but I have bumped into this personality type every once in a while. And so this book really helped me know what to do when I encounter this personality type. And then I have another book for if you have to work with people with narcissistic disorder. That's a tall order. So I have a book I recommend that you should read that just helped me a lot get through it, and helped me, I don't know, it just helped me learn how to work with someone with narcissistic disorder. So, because most of the time you can't just quit, most people can't just quit their job because you got to pay your rent. So, yeah. So anyway, I like that in the book she gives people the option of staying or going. And I like that because she's being honest. For sure. Yeah, she's being honest that sometimes just leaving isn't always an option for everybody, so to speak. Okay. So the biggest thing is, I think the pop culture definition of narcissist is like people who take a lot of pictures of themselves, or like someone doing a self-portrait or something, and that's actually not what, once you read the book or you watch the videos below, it can be something a little more sinister than that. Than just, if someone takes a lot of pictures of themselves, that's kind of not really hurting me. You know what I mean? So if I'm following someone on Facebook or Instagram and all they do is selfies and that's not my cup of tea, I can just like unfollow. But anyway, so the clinical, the way she describes it, and people with like Ph.D.s describe it. So basically, and I'm paraphrasing, but okay. People who are narcissists, they tend to be mean. They're just mean, and when someone's being mean, you know it when you see it, you know it when you hear it, you know when someone's being mean. And there's teasing, and teasing can feel like love, right? So I was sitting on the couch with my best friend a couple months ago before COVID-19. And we were watching Spider-Man Into the Universe. And by the way, my best friend is amazing, and she's sweet, and she's kind, and we have a great friendship. Best friend, Carol. So we're watching Spider-Man Into the Universe, or Into the Spider-Verse, something like that. But, you know, the one with Miles Morales, it won the Oscar. Great movie. But I'd seen the movie in the theater, and then I saw it on Netflix, and then we were watching it again for the third time. And there's some really great moments in that movie where I was again crying. Because it's such a good movie. The animation is stunning. So I'm sitting there like quietly, because there's some sad moments in the movie. And by the third time I cried during the movie, my best friend Carol was like, "Julie, this is like the third time you've cried at this movie." So she's teasing me a little bit, and then I was like, no, it's not. But she's teasing me a little bit, but the teasing is love. She's not ridiculing me. She's not being mean. She's teasing, and teasing can be a form of love if it feels like love. There's teasing, and then there's ridicule, or being mean, or being sadistic, or etc., or microaggressions is another word for it. But people with narcissistic disorder tend to be mean, and you know it when you see it, you know it when you hear it. The other thing about people with narcissistic disorder is they tend to be deeply, really insecure. And that sucks. Okay, and we'll get to that in a second, but they're really insecure. You wouldn't know it though, because a lot of them are very egotistical, but it's based on kind of surface level stuff. It's not based on who they are as a person. By the way, I empathize with people with narcissistic disorder. I don't think it's a fun way to exist. So I cannot emphasize that enough. I actually do empathize with people with narcissistic disorder. Like, that sucks. They can be very careless with your emotions. When I read that in the book, I was like, oh, that's it. That's it. Because there's people in my life I had to set boundaries with because they were just so careless with my emotions. I was tired of crying. I had friendships, and there's just people in my life I was so tired of crying over their behavior and feeling pain and having my sadness triggered. I was just like, I couldn't take it anymore. So I was just like, and their behaviors were just careless. Like this, I was like, I don't think they care. You read it in the book, they don't care, which is like, ouch. Okay, and finally, they're not prone to empathy. The well doesn't run that deep with them. And so what I want to say is, I meant to create a diagram, but okay, so a lot of times when people bring up people who are with narcissistic disorder, the new buzzword also, I don't know if this is like a psychological word, but I like it. So there's narcissists and there's people who are empaths. And I like the description empath. Another word is highly sensitive people. But that word, highly sensitive people, makes me feel like I'm fine china, like fancy dishes. So that phraseology is fine, but I like the word empath. And then I really like a series called Star Trek. Star Trek, Live Long and Prosper, and then Star Trek, Lieutenant Uhura. Okay, so I really like a thing called Star Trek. My refrigerator just made a weird noise. Okay, so I really like a show called Star Trek, and it's called Star Trek: The Next Generation. And in that series, there's a character, and she's called an empath. And she sits right next to Jean-Luc Picard. He's like the captain, the head captain of the ship, the spaceship. And right next to him is, I'm totally blanking on her name, but she's an empath. And they call her an empath. And she's this special alien race where rather than, she's not a psychic, she can't read people's thoughts, but she can feel people's emotions really well. She can feel if they're angry. She can feel if they're sad. And this was Star Trek: The Next Generation was a show created in the 90s. And now the word empath is like a thing now, where it's people where you can pick up on people's energy if you're an empath. You can just feel people's energy. You can feel if someone's a little bit angry. You can feel if someone's a little bit sad or happy or joyous. You can feel their energy. You pick up on, if you're an empath, you pick up on people their facial expressions and what they mean. Like if someone says something stupid and then someone makes a face like, empaths pick up on that, like, oops, this person looks like they might have gotten their feelings hurt, la la la. And empaths pick up on that, and then they usually, we try to kind of fix it, like make it better, that kind of thing. So in empaths, we're prone to empathy. So if someone's had a bad day, like if they stub their toe, we're like if someone had a bad day because they stubbed their toe, empaths, we're like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Is your toe okay? Or, take another, if someone was diagnosed with cancer, we're prone to empathy. We're gonna be like, oh my gosh, you're diagnosed with cancer? Are you okay? Are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help you? Like, that's what empaths do. We're prone to empathy. And I think that's great. I think everyone should be prone to empathy. Now, you could be an empath and still, you're not a pushover. You still set boundaries in your life, but you're just prone to empathy. You empathize with people's pain. Okay. So, what happens is, like, I drew a diagram, just a filmmaker, but I drew a diagram because I kept wondering, like, do I have, like, a target on my head that just attracts a certain kind of person as far as people with narcissistic disorder? And if you're an empath, yeah. Of course, people with narcissistic disorder, like, flock to us because we give out compliments and we're sincere about our compliments. You know what I mean? Like, if someone's wearing a nice shirt and I think they look good in the shirt, I say, hey, nice shirt, you look great. Like, that's a sincere compliment. So, of course, narcissists are going to eat that up with a spoon. Like, but the problem is they don't reciprocate. Not only do they not reciprocate, if they do reciprocate, it's with meanness. They're so mean. I'm sorry. Oh, they're so mean. Okay. So they don't reciprocate the empathy. Okay. So the diagram, here's empaths, and these are people with narcissistic disorder kind of like flocking to us, right? Because we make them feel good, and sometimes people with narcissistic disorder, they're mean and sadistic. They enjoy being mean to someone who's like empathetic. And yeah. So anyway, this is my diagram. If you're an empath, these are the narcs coming at you, narcissistic disorder. But set the boundaries, and so that you don't have to deal with these people if you don't have to. And this whole book gives you a bullet point on the different, and the videos, They give you a bullet point idea of what people with narcissistic disorder are like. Okay. So, yeah, so if you are an empath, I'm an empath, we don't have to change. We just have to sniff out people with narcissistic disorder sooner, sniff them out sooner. And once we sniff them out, just set boundaries. And you can set boundaries politely, but set the boundaries. Because the third thing she talks about, and this was the clinker for me, or this is the thing that was like, whoa. The whole book I was like, oh my gosh, epiphany. But for me in my life, narcissists, now she says people with narcissistic disorder don't change. Now for me, I'm religious, spiritual, blah, 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 whatever. Don't get scared, you don't have to be religious or spiritual, but I do believe in redemption. I believe people can redeem themselves personally, but what I want to say is this is a person, Dr. Ramani, who has like a Ph.D. again. So what she's saying is, she's saying this as like a doctor. She says people with narcissistic disorder rarely, she says they never change. And that's the biggest thing. They never change. Like, for them, the well just doesn't run deep. So, they don't self-reflect. So empaths, or regular people, I journal on a regular basis. That's me self-reflecting, learning how I can improve as a person in general. Sometimes if my anger or sadness is triggered, I want to understand why. For the most part, I like to feel good and happy. I'm 38 years old, so in my 20s, I dealt with depression. I grew up in an abusive home, so in my 20s, I dealt with depression, I dealt with sadness, I dealt with anger, and I had valid reasons to feel those emotions. But as a 38-year-old, I'm ready to kind of move on. I want, every day I want to feel joy, kindness, love. Those 3 words are my mantra. Those are things I want to feel. And I was never diagnosed with like clinical depression, and I understand and empathize with that diagnosis. But yeah, in my 20s, I just felt sad like a lot. And I'm okay. You know, I'm empathizing with myself in my 20s. But, but my point is, empaths, we do self-reflect. We do feel emotions. The well runs deep. And hey, that's a tough gig. It's a tough gig because sometimes we feel the weight of the world on our shoulders. I just watched a great episode of The Simpsons. I have Disney Plus, and it's Lisa Simpson, my favorite character on The Simpsons. And she's in 2nd grade. But she's feeling the weight of the world as a 2nd grader. It's a great episode. Season 1, and she's playing the blues on her saxophone. Great episode. Totally recommend it. But anyway, empaths, we do self-reflect. The well does run deep. We do journal. When we screw up, if we engage in an action that's hurtful to someone else, we want to know about it so that we can change our behavior. You know what I mean? We don't gaslight. I don't know. We're cool. And also, one last thing. Our high self-esteem, I have a podcast about how to have high self-esteem. My high self-esteem, it doesn't come from ego. It doesn't come from what kind of job I have, because I'm unemployed right now. But aren't we all? It's COVID-19. Aren't a lot of us unemployed? Okay, so I'm unemployed. I don't know. Us having high self-esteem, it doesn't come from materialistic or ego or blah, blah, blah. Us having high self-esteem is just knowing that we, you can substitute any words you want, but we as children of God, or we as children of the universe, or what have you, that our self-esteem comes from the idea that, hey, like, we're loved, you know, I'm loved by God, or I'm loved by the universe, or I'm cared for by every fiber in the universe. Like, I'm loved, love on a very cosmic level by everything when it comes to, like, the spiritual sense of that. I believe in the greater good. That's where my high self-esteem comes from. I don't think I'm better than nobody, and there's plenty of people who are better than me. And I'm okay with that, because my high self-esteem, it doesn't come from, you know, how good I can play basketball. I'm okay at it. Michael Jordan's way better. My self-esteem doesn't come from how good I am at singing. Beyonce's better than me at singing. I'm okay with that. I have a Michael Jordan sleeping bag from elementary school, and anyway. But my self-esteem just comes from, hey, I'm loved by God, for me. If you don't believe in God, like, whatever, the universe cares about you, you know what I mean? So anyway, that's where my self-esteem comes from, not from egotistical places. But anyway, so the biggest caveat in the book, when she says narcissists rarely change, actually she says they never change. Once I saw that, and it's like, because I had friends or coworkers where I tried to have heart-to-hearts with them, you know, hey, let's talk it out, let's hash it out, and their behavior didn't change, and it's like, they rarely change. And once I read that, I was like, oh, they rarely change. Okay, then I'm gonna need to set some boundaries, and I did, and I got happier. I got so much, and I got inner peace. By setting boundaries in my life with people in my life who just were engaging in behavior that was really hurtful on a regular basis, I felt so much better. And I know, like, sometimes your physiology looks out for you. I remember one friend or acquaintance, really, but whenever we'd hang out, I would have trouble sleeping because this person had just done so many mean things. So I had trouble sleeping, like, before I had to hang out with this person. And that was my body telling me, like, Julie, no. Save yourself. Don't hang out with this mean person. So anyway, after I read the book, I set some boundaries in my life, and I'm a much, much, much happier person. And also, once I read the book, I can sniff out someone with narcissistic disorder like that. And people with narcissistic disorder, they tend to, like, really wail on empaths. I don't know why, but they do. The other thing is, I've had people with narcissistic disorder tell me some really they get really comfortable with us, so they'll tell us their really gnarly secrets that I don't want to know. Like, they'll tell secrets about doing things that are, like, mean and not nice, and it's like, oh, you don't want to hear these things. So I don't know, okay, anyway. So, and finally, the last thing that people with narcissistic disorder can do, they can play nice, and they can play nice really well. So I have some action figures for you. Okay, so they can act like Princess Leia, who's, like, really nice and awesome, and her head wobbles. And Princess Leia is awesome. So they'll act like Princess Leia when they're out and about, but when they get around empaths, because they get so comfortable with us, they'll act like Captain Phasma. Her head bubbles too. But she's mean. She's so mean if you see the movies. So it's like, and it's kind of like mind-boggling, because they can act like this. They can act like this a lot. But at the end of the day, they're more like this person. And again, she's mean. She's very, 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 very mean. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I think, in my opinion, reading this book just saved me a lot of heartache. It just saved me a lot. So I totally recommend the book. And I'm going to link to the YouTube videos below. And then if you have to work with someone who you think might have narcissistic disorder, I would recommend this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, because the book is basically, it's all about how to get along with people, and how to kind of wow them and that kind of thing. And so a lot of these techniques I've used with people with narcissism. I can't diagnose anybody, but I've used those techniques on people who I would, if I were to guess, they might have narcissistic disorder. But I've used those techniques, and it works. And those work really well. If you have to work with somebody, because most people, we can't just quit our jobs. Like, that's not an option. So I would say that book is a really good coping mechanism if you're in a situation where you have to be with, usually when you have to work with somebody, if you have to work with someone with narcissistic disorder, I totally recommend this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, because in my opinion, I've used these techniques. And there's nothing crazy or gnarly in this book. It's very simple, like, techniques, but it's really, I've used those techniques on people I would I could presume might have narcissistic disorder, and those techniques for me, they worked. So you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta get that paycheck. So okay. So I totally recommend Should I Stay or Should I Go by Dr. Ramani Durvasula. She has a Ph.D. And this book just saved me a lot of heartache, a lot of pain. So I totally recommend the book. It's an easy read. And yeah, I recommend the book. Okay. And I just want to say, I want to champion love, joy, kindness, and empathy. I think those are 4 really amazing things. So I implore you to go forth and be awesome and be amazing and be good to yourself today. All right, I'm Julie Kerr, writer and director of the romantic comedy. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for watching my YouTube video. I really appreciate it. If you'd like to, I would love it if you would like, subscribe, ring the bell, or leave any comments or questions down below. I'm totally down to answer any of your questions or see what your thoughts are on the video. Also, my official call to action is that you guys and gals and folks be really good to yourselves. Be kind to yourselves. Times are tough right now. I'm keeping everybody involved with coronavirus, people on the front lines, in my prayers. And then us, just kind of everybody being stuck at home, keeping all of us in my prayers for sure. Okay, and my other call to action is that you join my email list. If you want to mosey on over to my website, this is like the link. Yeah, so I created a PDF and a PDF and a video. So I actually grew up in a abusive home, and now as an adult I'm doing quite well, considering considering a global pandemic. And yeah, so what I did is I came up with 5 daily strategies that I do every day that help me feel like good every day. And so yeah, I used to deal with a lot of sadness and depression in my 20s, and now I'm in my 30s. I started studying personal development, and in a way I've been studying personal development my entire life. So what I did is I created a PDF and a worksheet where I give 5 daily strategies that teach you to tell you the 5 strategies I do every day that just help me feel good. And also my college buddy, he joined my email list, and he saw the sequence of videos that you get to see through my email list and the worksheets, and he said they were amazing. He emailed me and he told me he loved them, and he thought they were super awesome. So he said, "These are so Julie." That's what he said, my college buddy. So that's pretty cool, pretty exciting. So hey, so I totally encourage you to watch my to join my email list. That's my official call to action. All right, thank you so much. I hope y'all have a great day. And I'm Julie Kerr, writer and director of the romantic comedy Geek Loves Punk. Okay, bye y'all. Love y'all.